Motorola Moto G10 Power hands-on review. But before we start, please support us by pressing the like and subscribe buttons, so that we can continue to provide the latest information about gadgets and technology. Also turn on the bell button to get the latest updates. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you. Introduction and specs. While most smartphone makers are making even their budget phones more expensive over time, although with incremental jumps, Motorola seems to be doing the exact opposite with its G Power phones. If you look back from its G8 Power release up until now, the launch price has been steadily going down, resulting in downgraded hardware. In a sense, you can say that the newer G Power smartphones are just alternatives to the previous ones rather than full-fledged successors. As long as you can find the older ones in your local stores. Entering the market for 2,500 Indian rupees less than its predecessor, the Moto G10 Power has an even bigger potential of becoming the endurance champion, mostly due to its less demanding soak. The G9 Power had a Snapdragon 662, while the G10 Power seems to prioritize battery efficiency even further with its Snapdragon 460 chip. Motorola Moto G10 Power specs at a glance. Body, 165.2 by 75.7 by 9. 9 mm, 220 grams, glass front, plastic back, plastic frame, water repellent design. Display, 6.50 inches IPS LCD, 720 by 1600 px resolution, 20:9 aspect ratio, 270p. Chipset, Qualcomm SM4250 Snapdragon 460, 11 nanometers, octa-core, 4x1. 8 GHz Creo 240 and 4x1. 6 GHz Creo 240, Adreno 610. Memory, 64 GB 4 GB RAM, micro SDXC, uses shared SIM slot. OS/software, Android 11. Rear camera, wide, main, 48 MP, f/1.7, 26 mm, f/0, 0.8 micrometers, FAF, ultra wide angle, 8 MP, f/2.2, 118, 1/4.0, 1.12 micrometers, macro, 2 MP, f/2.4, depth, 2 MP, f/2.4. Front camera, 8 MP, f/2.2, wide, 1/4.0, 1.12 micrometers. Video capture, rear camera, 1080p at 30/60 fps, front camera, 1080p at 30 fps. Battery, 6000 mAh, fast charging 20 watts. Miscellaneous, fingerprint reader, rear mounted, FM radio, 3.5mm jack. The downgrades don't end with the chipset. The G10 Power goes for a lower res 48 MP main camera but adds an ultra-wide into the mix. Storage has been reduced to half the size, the selfie camera is now 8 MP instead of 16 MP, and the NFC has been axed, not that it's much needed in the Indian market. Moreover, the phone comes with a smaller, 6.5-inch display. This may seem like an odd move on behalf of Motorola, but a deeper dive into the company's portfolio puts things into perspective. The Moto G30 has already snatched most of the G9 Power's internals along with its approximate price, so there's no sense in making yet another G30 phone at the same price point. This leaves a bit of room for the G10 Power to go down the price ladder and supposedly attract users looking for something compact with a huge battery. That's something you don't see every day. Unboxing the Moto G10 Power. The Moto G10 Power's box is not something out of the ordinary as it carries the standard wall charger, rated at 20 watts and the USB-A to USB-C cable for data transfers and charging. The Moto G10 Power is hefty and compact at the same time. The 6.5-inch display makes it small enough for rather comfortable one-handed use, but the handset's heft takes away some bonus points. The 6000 mAh battery is to blame here, tipping the scale at 220 grams. That's a lot of phone for a 6.5-inch diagonal, and you start to feel the weight over time. Needless to say, the chassis is entirely made of plastic, except for the screen, of course, and the back panel adopts the curly wave pattern that we saw with the Moto G30. It makes up for a nice feel, and it's nice to touch. The camera bump doesn't protrude as much, mostly because the phone's body is about 9.9mm thick, so there's not much headroom for the camera island. However, since it's not centered, it does wobble on a flat surface. The buttons on the sides feel solid and provide rather clicky feedback, which is positive. The fingerprint reader feels accurate and fast, but the actual unlocking takes some time. We suspect that the low-powered Snapdragon 460 is the culprit here. Motorola has already moved to punch-hole cutouts for the selfie cam on its higher models, but the notches are still prevalent at the entry level. The waterdrop-styled cutout here is small and doesn't really get in the way too much. The bezels around the screen, as you'd probably guess, are not razor-thin but seem to be on par with the course, with the side ones a bit slimmer than the others. Hardware overview. The G10 Power employs a Snapdragon 460 instead of Snapdragon 662 on the previous model and is paired with 4GB/64GB memory configuration instead of the 4GB/128GB setup. Since the new chipset draws less power, the G10 Power might beat the G9 Power in an endurance test standoff as they both boast the same 6000 mAh battery. Also, the G10 Power's display is smaller. The screen has gone down from 6.8 inches to 6.5 inches, which would ultimately benefit power consumption. The resolution, however, hasn't changed as much, 720 by 1600 px at a 20:9 aspect ratio. It does seem to have Widevine L1 clearance for 1080p playback in the Netflix and Amazon Prime Video apps, but that wouldn't matter since the display can't go up to that resolution anyway. When it comes to brightness, we found that it can provide good visibility outdoors for reading text. The camera system adds an 8MP ultra-wide snapper with 118-degree field of view and f/2.2 aperture and swaps the 64MP main camera for a 48MP unit, which has a fairly wide f/1.7 aperture. The same 2MP macro and 2MP depth sensors are at hand, although the macro unit is missing the autofocus feature. An 8MP camera takes the 16MP shooter's place on the front where the notch is. Sadly, there's no NFC, but that won't be an issue for the Indian market where this phone is mostly aimed at. The Moto G10 Power has clearly gone through some hardware downgrades compared to the Moto G9 Power. However, its launch price is lower to account for that, and the choice of the new hardware can potentially allow the 6000 mAh battery to deliver even longer runtimes. Performance. We ran the usual set of tests to see if the SoC performs as intended, and it does. But aside from the synthetic benchmarks, our overall impression is that the OS runs well with the current SoC, and we didn't notice any major slowdowns or hiccups. It's absolutely capable of carrying out your day-to-day usage, but don't expect gaming to be smooth on this one. It just doesn't have the horsepower.
Thanks for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.